There we go. We are now live, and I'm just going to share a little bit about our show and why we're here. So, the Aligned Ambition Show. And I want to welcome everyone for joining us today, whether you're here live or you're watching a replay afterwards. I'm Larissa Russell of Heart Centered Academy, previously known as Creative You Healing, Creative You Business, Creative You. So, if you're a woman starting to grow and growing your online heart-centered business, are you wanting to do things differently, feeling icky about manipulative marketing tactics, and are ready to align your business with your ethics, values, and life goals? Then stick around for this conversation. And today I have with me Gwenda Smith, a spirit medicine woman. And Gwenda is an integrative wellness and spiritual healing mentor, renowned for her leadership in holistic and self-healing. As a dedicated spiritual guide, she empowers students on their journey of ascension and transformation. Gwenda's dynamic, warm, and inspiring presence as a speaker motivates others to uncover their inner greatness and innate wisdom. Her vision is to help you release pain, illness, and disease, enabling you to live life on your terms as your soul intended. So, welcome, Gwenda.
Thank you, Larissa. It's a joy to be here. And oh boy, your opening line, not manipulative marketing. Yes, absolutely.
It's interesting that you picked up on that one. I attended a summit recently, online, but live, and you had to be there every moment. And it was for women's empowerment and doing things different for women. And it was so masculine energy. I was so disappointed, so disappointed. Um, but it is the manipulation that are and fear-based
Yeah,
tactics that are used in our world, that patriarchal energy. So welcome, though. Gwenda, can
thank
you
you.
tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to do what you do?
Oh, what a wonderful journey it's been, Larissa. And thank you for the privilege to be able to share this part of my journey. I have been doing what I do for over 40 years. I began as a nurse, but my communication and skills, if you like, there's a word that we really could put out to something else, not skills. My gifted abilities with spirit began, my earliest memories are of 4 years of age. My dad has quite an interesting story that he shared with me of when I was 5, and mum and dad finding me on top of a wardrobe that defied any logic, any explanation. There was no way for me to have climbed onto the wardrobe and be sitting up there. It frightened the wits out of them, they said. And then when I was just a little child, family used to say, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" And to me, it was always a nurse. I'm going to be a nurse. And so it was. I became a nurse, started my nursing training when I was 16. And when I was on the wards, I was fascinated that you would have 4 people in the one ward, all with the same diagnosis, all having the same treatment, and yet not getting better or some minor improvement. And I would think, what's wrong with this picture? Why all 4 have got the same diagnosis, and yet we're not seeing tremendous recovery, not healing, but recovery, no healing, and all different. And so I would be critical about that, but nobody could give me any answers on what that was about. And also, you weren't encouraged to ask the kind of questions that I was asking. So I decided there was an opportunity to be a scrub nurse in the theatres. I thought, well, I'll go and find out what goes on the inside. Maybe I can get some answers there. So that I did. I became a senior scrub nurse. Oh, I loved it. Loved being in among the blood and guts and finding out how things tick and what it is. And we would have the same thing though. You would have someone come in and have, say, a lady come in to have a breast off or a breast augmentation. And then if we'd finished our list and my shift wasn't finished, we'd be sent to the ward. And because I was senior scrub, I would most often go to the surgical floor because I knew of anything that had gone on in the surgery, and it was just my preferred place. And the same thing. So here I am now. I've got the outer and now I've got the inner, and I'm not getting the answers. And then I found that I was actually communicating and seeing spirit souls as they were leaving the body, as people were passing. So that added another dimension to the experience of things, but they couldn't give me the answer either that I wanted. And then one day, Larissa, in theatre, we had a lady come in to have an abdominal tumour removed. And in the 70s, that was not common. Now it's very common. And we opened her to the augmentum, which is a beautiful shield across the abdominal organs, your whole gut area, abdomen, really. And it was all grey and lumpy. And I looked at it and thought, wow, I haven't seen one like that before, because usually that organ is really quite pretty. Might sound odd, but it's really quite pretty. Soft pink and full of capillaries with blood flow through it. And hope nobody's eating. I'm used to this. And my role was to move that out of the way so that we could get to the organs. But I was looking at it and the surgeon said, suture up. So he put his hand out to receive what was required to start suturing up. And I'm like, oh, we hadn't done anything. And he saw the quizzical look in my eyes and he said, well, nurse, you can see the same thing as me. This lady has 14 days to live. And I went, whoa, a young nurse and 14 days to live. And I'm like, where did he get that? 14. Why not 17? Why not 19? Why not 30? Why 14? Where did that come from? And my head was spinning off my shoulders. And then he called the scout nurse over and he said to the scout, when this lady is awake enough to be spoken to, which means not conscious like you and I at the moment, I want the ward to let me know. And he looked at me and he said, and you will come with me to deliver the news. Now, to this day, Larissa, that is not the protocol. So I went with him. Beautiful surgeon he was, very skilled. And on the way, he said, would I hold the lady's hand while he gave her the news? So we got to her and she was very deep in the thick of anaesthetic. But she recognised his voice and smiled, eyes closed. And then he placed his hand over her upper chest, over her heart area, and nodded to me. And he said he had his scrub nurse with him and that was who was going to hold her hand. And her instincts told her, So she tried to open her eyes, but couldn't, not fully. And he started to talk to her and he said that when she was awake fully, her husband was to come and collect her from the hospital, take her home for 8 days. 8 days. Because in 8 days, you're going to be very unwell and I want you back in hospital. Enjoy your 8 days at home now. Now she was really trying to push past the anaesthetic and tears started to flow, as they did for me. And he said, enjoy your 8 days at home. You have 14 days to live. And we walked away and left her with that. And we walked away and left her in tears. And it's not about me, but it made me cry too. And it still does. I can still see her. On the 8th day, Larissa, I was on the ward and I admitted her. And just as he said, she was very unwell. And then I laid her out on the 14th day. And as I laid her out, I cried the whole time and I couldn't get my head around it. So I made a promise to her that I would go on a quest to find out just what is illness, disease, and death. I wanted her life to mean more than 14 days. So I've been on that quest for 40 years or more now, and it's been
Wow.
amazing. So that's a little bit about me.
And my first instinct as my brain kicked in was, oh, he knows from, he knows how many days because, he's seen it so many times. And then the understanding of that intuition that he had and knew, but then also the lesson that you learned from that, the lesson that you learned from that, that took you on this path, your purpose. And not to take away from what happened, but often we look at these things in such a negative fashion of this horrible incident that happened and how horrifying, why didn't they try more, about all of these things. But these things are put in our path for us to direct us so that we can make our choices, right, that are needed for the purpose that we're here. And you took that direction and then went with that. It's amazing. I just goosebumps everywhere as you were telling your story. Oh,
Yeah.
heartbreaking and
Mm.
also so empowering is the word that comes to me, but that's not quite it. It's like just really inspirational is
Yeah.
probably a better word. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, she certainly inspired my life. And my decree was no one will tell me how many days I have to live. That was the
Hmm.
big thing for me. And I lived that through and through. And that's why I say I like to guide people on how to live life on their terms, not someone else's. And that's something
Hmm.
I've found being in business as a woman. There's a lot of expectations of how you're to behave, how you're to come across. And if you want to succeed, in this corporate world, this persona that you have to have. And I just don't subscribe to any of it. I don't buy into it.
Hmm.
Doesn't work for me. And I'm sure it wouldn't work for you either.
No, 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 it doesn't. And I tried for so many years, right? I
Mm,
tried so hard to fit in, as we all do, to just we get to a certain point and we could be 12, we could be 20, we could be 50. It doesn't matter where it is. At some point we go, I can't do this anymore.
yeah.
I cannot do this anymore. Sometimes it's, on the deathbed, and that's really sad. But hopefully you get to live life on your own terms at some point. And it's such an important thing to empower women to do that. And taking that nursing background, at what point did you start to like um, I don't know, work for yourself or bring that into as a private practice? Did you finish your career as a nurse and then start? Did you do both at the same time? How did you sort of segue?
Well, a lot of my abilities really came to life while I was nursing. As I mentioned, I'm able to see the spirit as it was leaving the body. Having spirit souls come to me, I did not like night shift because it was they're more active at night than in the day, which isn't correct. It's just that in the darkness you can see more,
Mhm.
and there's not as many noises to distract you or block out. So my work with spirit began very early, began as a nurse, but I would keep that to myself because I learnt very early in my life that it would cost me dearly to speak up with what I could see, hear, sense in all my senses. So I would communicate with the spirits, and even with new babies as they came in, if they were not completely into their physical body, which most often they're not. And it was joyous. And sometimes I'd feel, I just want to be able to tell people about this, especially those that were losing a loved one, to be able to say that they're standing next to you. But while I was nursing, that was not ever going to happen. And then when I was 25, I started actually having people come to me, out of the blue. They would just come to me and say, I've heard about you and I've come for guidance, or in those days of reading. And it propelled from there. But in that time, I left nursing when our Prime Minister announced that if you wanted to be thought of as a professional, as a nurse, you would have to go to university. Otherwise, you were not a professional. I think that lines up beautifully with what we're saying about you know, that way of looking at things as a woman in business or as a
Mm-hmm.
woman in career. So we saw the loss of a lot of our incredibly skilled, knowledgeable, amazing nurses because they left, because a lot of them were 60, 40 even. And they're like, I'm not going to university. I've
I've
dedicated
been
my
doing this
life
my
to
whole
this.
life.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I've dedicated my life to this. I am not going to university. So I was there through all that transition time. I'm somewhat of an activist, Larissa, so I stood up on the podium at the university here to speak against the university training. And at the time, the States, the USA and the UK had already tried this model 20 years before Australia. Never say we're a little bit slow. And it hadn't worked. But no, our government were it was going to work here. Well, it hasn't worked, most definitely.
Mm-hmm.
So I stayed in the system for a while longer and I couldn't stand it. So the changes were nothing short of horrendous when it came to patient care, and the way that we were told to conduct our work. It just did not sit in my heart. And my dream, to be a nurse, it's all I wanted to be, from 8. So I left nursing, and there's a yearning in me to want to still continue to help people with wellness, with understanding the soul. It just kept coming up, and it didn't matter what I was in. I was in hospitality, I went into advertising, in a women's magazine here in Perth, and in another company for tourism. And all the time, I would still encounter these occasions of either staff injury or sudden illness or something. And I don't know, the GM knew that I was a previous nurse and I would get called upon, but it gave me a chance to use my other abilities. And it's just
Mm-hmm.
flowed on from there.
I love that. I love that. And and as you've grown into this business of your own and helping other people, I don't know, just women or other people, what has been the journey that you've taken that's helped you step more and more into, I don't know, your most authentic business version? You sound like you're very authentic right from the get-go for your own self, but your business probably has gone through some ebbs and flows of that.
It certainly has. And the way for me to explain it is that feeling inside where something is not right, something's not sitting right here. What is this? And I've always done introspection, and always questioned myself. But I used to question myself on why isn't this working? What aren't you doing? And then I would turn it around as I got older and understood more. It was like, oh, what am I missing here from the, shall I use the word spiritual side of things?
Mhm.
What's going on, and seek that guidance from the inner wise owl, and united with the divine. Oh, okay, now I can see what's going on. But when I decided, health and wellness and that connection is what matters most, um, I went out and became a master personal trainer because fitness is a big part of well-being.
Mhm.
So I got that cap, put that on, and I was able to integrate all of my gifts. But my clients would say, how did you know my blood was too thick to run? You sent me to the hospital. How did you know that? And I would say, well, I'm a nurse, and it's just a nurse's instinct. Or how did you know that I had this going on with my fallopian tube, and that I had all these cysts? Oh, it's just I was a nurse. I'll say that.
Mhm.
But even as a master personal trainer, there was something missing. Like there's still something missing in the system, in the way that they teach it. So I sent out and put out for someone that has that extra bit that's missing most of all for how people can be well, how they can be aligned to their soul. And wouldn't you know it, the big fitness conference came to Sydney, and there was a gentleman called Mr. Paul Check of the Check Institute from America. And oh my gosh, I was in heaven. It was everything I'd been looking for. Oh, I signed up for every one of his sessions, and then I took up certification with him. I soaked him up because he was very much aligned with what I'd been looking for.
Mhm.
So then I wanted to have my own holistic wellness center. Why wouldn't I? Because I couldn't find any other trainers here that had all those links that I wanted to incorporate. So I did. I had my own center. That was hard yakka, very hard, and I couldn't reach the number of people that I wanted to reach. So then my dream was to have a one-stop place where I would have all the alternative practitioners and myself. And I was one step away from achieving that when an altercation with the landlord cost me the lot. And I lost all of my 16, 17 years of working towards my goal.
Mm.
So I had to start again. I had to reinvent myself again. So here I am today, working very deeply in the spiritual side of things, and then bringing in the other aspects. So it's the wheels turned around the other way. Yeah. So that's what's been the journey.
And things like, losing the property,
Mm.
when you're so close to your goal, it's heartbreaking.
Mm-hmm.
Do you now see it as a positive or a redirection to your true alignment? Or do you still think you missed out on something there?
um, it does make me chuckle because I did sit back after the heartbreak. It was very heartbreaking. Um, and I did ask, what was this about? And the receiving message was something bigger for you to be doing. So I went,
Mhm.
okay, well, show me the way and let's do this. So
Yeah.
away we've gone. For where am I up to? 8 years or something now, yeah. But yes, when I look at all of the picture, the whole lot from the start, it really is like putting a puzzle together and
Yeah.
seeing it. But I do have words with upstairs and say you could have, made that road a little more obvious, a little more shiny. I'd have to go through that heartbreak. I lost such a lot in that. Yeah.
But it's
So
part of our journey. I know
yeah.
I've had similar situations where, it's just like one thing, it seems like one thing after another. And I recently had my birth chart done, which I'd had done many, many years ago, but it turns out I was off by 12 hours. And so when I found my baby book and found out, the correct time for my birth and had it done, every single thing that has happened in my life is outlined in the chart, not the specifics, but the type of incident that would happen at this time and the type of incident. And I was like, okay, so all of that was for a reason. It was horrible, some of it, and some of it,
Mm.
I tried to take the lessons from it, but it was all for a reason. And so it's like I'm continuously choosing to be grateful for the life that I've led, as difficult as it has been, because it's brought me to where I am now and what I'm doing now. So it's hard to see though when you're in it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Sure it is, especially when you believe that's your dream, that's where you're headed, and then it's taken out. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, it sure is very difficult.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'm going to say a but. The more aligned you are the easier you see those things coming, and you can navigate better with them.
Mhm.
You know, I have so many people that want to argue with their soul and argue with the divine guidance. I'm like, don't do it. Don't do it.
You're not going to
Listen
win.
up. But no, they've got to push past and do it their way. And then of course the wheels fall off everything. And then they get cranky. Like, well, all of the guidance was there, but you used your free will to ignore it. So here we are now at this juncture. Mess.
I feel that one. I feel that one. I've been that one a few times. So
You use the
I
word gratitude, and Larissa, that is such a powerful word. You and I know that in this side of things, we get these words that come in and they become trendy words, and everybody's using them. Even the word holistic was hijacked.
Mhm.
People of any walk talk believe that if they use that word, everything was going to be rosy and hunky dory for them. Like, I met a bookkeeper who said he was a holistic bookkeeper. I went, okay, I must have missed something in the in the definition. But spiritual is another one, and gratitude. So gratitude came out as something that was pushed really hard. But the fact is that without gratitude, you don't see clearly. You don't see, and you can't evolve. You also can't heal. And healing isn't just about a wound or what's called a disease or whatever. Healing can simply be through moving past the things you and I have encountered. If we're not grateful for those things that have happened, we can't grow. So
Mhm.
gratitude to me is a massive word, and it's one that needs to be in our lives every day, for
Yes.
for the
Yeah.
good, the bad, the ugly, the the
For the
whatever.
lessons learned.
The hairpin bends, oh boy. It's
It's so true. So true. And if you had one piece of advice or, something you just really wish women would know if they wanted to start their own business or, you know, take a step in a direction towards their purpose, what would that be?
please make a promise to yourself, hand on heart, that you will every day take a step to know who you really are, really understand who you are, and create that loving relationship with yourself on every aspect of all your different selves. Because truly, to be in your business as a woman, and if you're going to be in a heart-centered business, you must be able to sit in your own heart first, completely. And
Mm.
that's not to call for perfectionism. Please don't slip that in there, because I didn't use that word. It's not
Mhm.
about perfectionism. The journey to know oneself is one of courage, and it's one that you must dedicate yourself to every day, because to really live your business the way your soul wants to express through you, and to be able to have the experiences it calls for, the only way you can do that is to really know yourself.
Yes. Oh, so true. So true. It's some of the work that we do in our mastermind is the business things you can learn anywhere. We do that as well, but it's that personal journey that we're on and the self-care and self-awareness, those things, spending time every day on those is so important. So important.
Every day. Yeah.
Yeah.
And don't kid
Oh.
yourself that you can jump jump out of that, jump steps and ignore, because that's where business will become really tough, and that's where you can get sick. So
Mhm.
be be true to yourself, no matter what. No matter
Yeah.
what. And you don't have to share it with anyone else. It's not national news. What you're
Mhm.
finding out about yourself is your own treasure. And then how you will put that to the world is what will work magically for you. And that's where
Yes.
you can manifest. That's where you can heal. It's where you can create magic.
Love that. I absolutely love that. I want to thank you. You have a gift for our listeners, a 30-minute session to help release any energetic blocks in the physical and energy bodies. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, a favourite part of my work, Larissa. Yes, it goes hand in hand with your own vision and the way that you work. We can have energetic blocks anywhere in our physical self, mental body, emotional body, and all the other bodies. So everything that is us, and be totally unaware of it. So I like to guide people through themselves so that I like to give them the key so that they know how to find their energetic blocks. But in this particular session, I'll go through and have a look at all your fields. I can see into the physical body just like an MRI machine. So I can see something that is not in balance, an organ that's not working properly, and find the root, the block that is creating
Mm.
that for you, and give you the options of how you can clear that. So I teach you and I'll also do the release for you.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that's it. Everybody needs to sign up for that. Everybody go and any final thoughts for our listeners before we go today?
Oh, final thoughts. I just have loved our conversation and being, as you call it, heart centered. Another one of those catchphrases, but in this case with Larissa and what she's pointed out, her mastermind, to be heart centered is something that requires your attention and it requires you to participate, not just use the words. So
Yeah.
find your way to your heart and let it lead the way.
Yes, absolutely. It just, you said the about it being one of those catchphrases, and it's so true. I did not want to rebrand with that name when we were doing our rebranding, and I tried so many different things, and finally I had to listen to Spirit, and I was like, really? That's what it has to be?
Yeah.
Really? Okay. But yes, it's so true. It's so true. So, yes. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today.
Been
I
a
really
privilege.
appreciate
Thank
it
you.
in our conversation. And for those who are listening, if you're a woman interested in aligning your heart-centered business with your ethics, values, and life goals, join our Aligned Business Building Mastermind. We have a 90% off coupon for your first 30 days. The link will be below shortly. And join us. We have an amazing group of women, and we come together and discuss, and we have accountability, and we do the business things, but we also do the healing things. And so thank you, everyone, for joining us, and we will see you next time on the Aligned Ambition Show. Bye for
Yes.
now.